Hello, fellow seekers. I hope everyone is doing well. We are going to continue on with the Hannah Payne trial. I had hoped to get a few more videos up, but of course, obviously, last week and the week before, I was experiencing technical difficulty, but thankfully, I'm up and running. So let's just get on with it. So, looks like now the state is going to be calling up Detective Darnell Rolling to testify. It looks like Hannah and Attorney Tucker are kind of matching, like his yellow tie and her yellow top. She still looks really mean or scared or both. And he just looks, well, like, what was it? Somewhere in the Long Crime when I was watching it and I was looking at the live chat, somebody said something like, he looks like he would be someone that would be found in the yellow pages and has an office behind a nail salon. I'm like, oh boy, that's not really good. The other one was, I even put down a name in case I don't think this person, I've never seen this person comment on my channel, but then her name is Lixie1, and she said, my cat hates this guy's voice. She just left my lap and went to sit on another chair. He sounds like he gargles with unfiltered cigarettes. I thought that was a pretty good description. So, yeah, I'm kind of like, I know that Attorney Tucker isn't on trial, but he's on my trial. Well, for me too, because he's just a pain in the arse. And looking at the comments, it looks like a lot of other people do not care for him as well. Okay, I lied. I kind of talked a little bit more than I planned to, but we're going to get with it now. And as you'll notice, and you'll notice it more as time goes along, Hannah continues to, it looks like she's like, co-attorney. Because she's shuffling papers, writing things down, getting things out of the accordion folder, writing notes and talking to Attorney Tucker. However, somebody said, and I didn't watch this trial, only a little bit of it, that Judge Darrow presided over. That I think it was the eye drop murder case. They said, sorry, so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt Judge.
I hope you all had a good lunch. We're ready to proceed with the case and statement. Go ahead and call its next witness.
Okay, sorry. But they said that Jesse or Jessica, whatever her name was, in the eye drop murder trial, wrote a lot of notes and gave it to her attorney. So maybe it's not just Hannah. I don't know. It looks like they have a very peculiar relationship. Maybe it's her uncle or a family friend or something. I don't know. But here we go.
Let's get rolling. Would raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give before the court in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You can take your hand down and have a seat. And since you're keeping your mask on, if you would just make sure you're enunciating well enough for the court reporter and for the jurors to hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
If you would please state and spell your
See if you
name.
can see this.
Detective Darnell Rolling, D-A-R-N-E-L-L-R-O-L-L-I-N-G.
That is quite a big shiny watch she has on.
And how long have you been with the Clayton County Police Department?
For over 12 years.
And have you gone through the training to become a post-certified law enforcement officer?
Yes, ma'am.
And what does that mean?
That means that I've met all the requirements for the state of Georgia to be certified as a law enforcement official.
And that's what gives you arrest powers?
That is correct, yes.
And what is your job description? What was your job description back in May of 2019?
I was in the Criminal Investigation Division for the Clayton County Police Department, where we investigate all sorts of crimes, such as persons and property.
And the Criminal Investigations Division, would that be what lay people would think of as where the detectives are?
That is correct, yes.
So not the uniform officers that ride out in the patrol cars, but the detectives that come later?
That is correct, yes.
And in the course of your work at the Clayton County Police Department, were you asked at some point after May to obtain a known DNA sample from the defendant in this case, Hannah Payne?
Yes, I was.
And did you perform that task on November the 26th of 2019?
I did.
What did that entail?
Pretty much entailed me applying for a search warrant affidavit for buccal swab, or what is known as DNA, collected from the defendant at the time.
And how do you perform the swab? What do you do?
There's a protected Q-tip or swab, if you will, enclosed in a clear plastic seal. That seal is not broken until I've met with the defendant, explain the scenario or the situation to them. I then break that seal and insert into the mouth, into the jaws, and inner lining of the mouth to collect DNA.
And once you've inserted the swab into the mouth and done the collection, what happens next?
It is then placed back into the seal and resealed again and sent off to the crime lab.
And did you follow that procedure in this case?
I did.
And once the swab is placed into the container that it came in originally, is that container then bagged for evidence?
Yes, it is.
I've already shown what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit number 5 to Defense Counsel. May I approach the witness? Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 5. If you could look at both sides to see if you recognize State's Exhibit number 5.
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you recognize State's Exhibit number 5?
It has my initials and signature on it, along with the date and my information attached.
And when you, after you swab the defendant in this case, place that swab into a bag that is labeled as State's Exhibit number 5, did you alter, delete, mess with, tamper with, do anything at all to the swab of the defendant's mouth?
No, ma'am.
And other than the fact that the State's Exhibit number 5 has been opened by the crime lab for testing, is this container in the same or substantially the same condition as when you sealed it?
Yes, ma'am.
At this time, the State will tender State's Exhibit number 5.
Any objection?
No further questions. No further questions.
Okay. Any cross-examination?
Yes, I'll be very brief on this, Your Honor.
Very brief. Didn't Daryl used to say that?
Investigator Rolling, is that the best way that you followed, the best way to collect DNA?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And was there anything out of the ordinary or something that occurred while you were collecting that would have compromised it?
No, nothing at all.
Okay. And was Ms. Payne very cooperative when that occurred?
Very cooperative, yes.
I think that's first.
Okay. Are you correct?
No, Judge.
Okay. Give this witness the excuse.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, these few don't take that long, but there's going to be some state crime lab print examiners.
Of what occurred earlier, we switched the order of our witnesses. We had given these witnesses a little bit longer at lunch.
Okay.
So can we just ensure that they can return?
Certainly, you may.
Since we sent one witness.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the next two is going to be Ashley Haas, Haas. The next one is Emily. After her is Emily Kuruc. Both of them from the State Crime Lab Print Examiners. And there's nothing really very remarkable, I guess, other than they're just kind of testifying about fingerprints. But there's really no drama or anything. Excuse me for bumping. Oh my goodness. we're so bad about bumping this. Sorry. But anyhow, so there's no really, but they're not very long, either one of them. And then the next one will be an eyewitness. And of course, then we'll hear that story. And then, of course, Attorney Smarmy's. See how Hannah's pointing out things for him? They're really a team, aren't they? Look. Excuse me again.
Ashley Haas. All right, please raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm the testimony you will provide to this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you can take a seat and pull yourself up to the microphone. All right, could you please state and spell your name for the record?
My name is Ashley Haas. That is spelled Ashley, Haas as in Sam.
And where are you employed?
I am currently employed at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation in the Division of Forensic Sciences, which is typically called the Crime Lab.
And what is your current position with the crime lab?
I am currently a Crime Lab Scientist 3 Senior, specifically a latent print examiner.
Now, can you describe the education and training you've had that qualifies you for this position?
Yes. I received a Bachelor of Science in Forensic Biology with a minor in Chemistry from Western New England University in Springfield, Massachusetts. Upon being hired by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, I successfully completed the 5-month National Latent Print Examiner Training Academy in Meridian, Mississippi, as well as 2 years of in-house training at the GBI following that academy. Each year I complete at least 16 hours of continuing education as well.
And do you hold any certifications?
I do not currently.
And are you a member of any professional organizations?
I am not.
Now, how many prints have you processed during your career as a latent print examiner?
This is not a number that I keep track of, but generally speaking, I work about 25 to 30 cases per month, and those cases can range from 1 print to upwards of 100, so many.
And have you ever been tendered as an expert in the court in the state of Georgia?
I have.
And how many times?
4 times.
At this time, your Honor, the state moves to tender this witness as an expert in the field of fingerprint examination and comparison. Any objection?
Not at this time.
All right, can you explain your job duties?
Yes, as a latent print examiner at the GBI, my job duties generally include processing items of evidence in an effort to develop latent prints, photographing latent prints that are developed during processing, completing comparisons of latent print to known prints, as well as searching latent prints on both the state and national databases, writing official reports with my results, and testifying to those results in court. I also sometimes have the opportunity to work with identifying unidentified decedents for our medical examiner's office.
Now, Ms. Haas, what is a friction ridge skin?
Friction ridge skin is going to be the skin found on the palm sides of the hands, from the finger all the way down to the palm, as well as on the soles of your feet. Friction ridge skin is made up of raised portions known as ridges. They flow across the surface and create different patterns, which are commonly referred to as your fingerprint. Within friction ridge skin, there are ridge characteristics, which is when a ridge is flowing and ends, that's what we're going to call a ridge ending, or when a ridge is flowing and splits into two like a Y, we refer to that as a bifurcation. The different patterns that these create is, as I said, what we refer to as a fingerprint, but it can also be a palm print or a footprint.
And what is a known print?
A known print is going to be an intentional reproduction of the information within friction ridge skin. It's often taken using ink and paper or electronically using a live scan device.
And what is a latent print?
A latent print is going to be a chance or an unintentional reproduction of the information in the friction-ridged skin that's left on a surface or an item when it's touched or handled. The term latent also typically means that it may not be readily visible to the naked eye and may require some sort of processing in order to be visible.
Now, what are the basic principles of using fingerprints as a means of identification?
The basic principles are going to be uniqueness and persistency. So I'm just going to break those down into the two. So unique is that when the friction ridges are formed in a random pattern, so no two people are going to have exactly those same ridge characteristics in the same place in comparison to each other. Even your index finger is not going to be the same as your middle finger because they are being formed randomly. And these are formed actually during utero. And the persistent side of that is that when your friction ridge skin is formed, the characteristics within that are not going to change throughout your lifetime. They're going to generally persist. They're generally stable, barring any kind of disease or possibly injury like scarring.
Now, how are items that you receive in the crime lab processed for latent prints?
When an item of evidence is received in the impression section in order to be processed for latent prints, the first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to open the item of evidence and I'm going to take an overall photo to document how that item was received previous to me doing any kind of processing. I'm next going to do a visual examination using different types and colors of light in order to see if any of those latent prints are actually visible without doing any processing. And then I'm going to look at what kind of item it is. What processes I utilize is going to be determined by what type of item I'm dealing with. Typically speaking, there are porous and non-porous items. Porous is going to be something like paper, where when an item is touched, the residue on your friction ridges is actually going to seep into that. It's not going to sit on the surface, but it's actually going to be part of it. This makes it a little more stable and not as easily wiped away. Whereas a non-porous item is going to be something like glass or plastic, where the residue actually sits on the surface of the item. If you were to think about touching your glass window, you'd be very easily able to swipe that away. So, like I said, what kind of item we're dealing with is how I'm going to decide what type of processing I'm going to use. And after each process, I'm going to do a visual examination again to see if I've developed any latent prints, and then use photography to capture those latent prints to be used later for potential comparison or a database search.
All right, did the crime lab receive items in this case for processing?
Yes, it did.
And do you know who provided those items to the crime lab?
Can I please reference my notes, Your Honor? Those items were received from the Clayton County Police Department.
And what items did you receive?
I received a firearm, a magazine, and 11 cartridges.
Now, can we go step by step for each item, and you can describe how you process each item, starting with the firearm?
Yes, ma'am. The firearm, when I received it, had actually been previously processed. In the incident report, it stated that the item had been superglue fumed. So in that case, I still did my initial visual to see if there were any latent prints that were visible. And then I moved on to a process known as dye staining. In this case, I used basic yellow. So just to move back, I did use superglue fuming on some of the other items, so I'm just going to give a general description of that. Superglue fuming is when superglue is placed onto a hot plate, it becomes a vapor and adheres to latent print residue, creating almost a plasticized print. This just allows there to be contrast between the item and the superglue. So like in this case, the firearm was black. So the hope is that by turning those ridges white, I'm going to be able to actually visualize them. I'm creating contrast. So the next step, as I said, I used basic yellow. This is a dye stain, and all that does is that it doesn't actually develop any more latent prints, but it turns that superglue fluorescent yellow. Again, I'm just trying to create more contrast between my background and the actual ridges. And so for the firearm, that was my final step.
And what were you specifically looking for?
In this case, I was looking for potentially suitable latent prints. At the GBI, for something to be considered potentially suitable, it has to have at least 7 of those ridge characteristics, those ridge endings or bifurcations that I spoke about earlier.
And did you find suitable prints on the firearm?
I did not.
Now, is it possible for a person to touch a surface and not leave a fingerprint or a palm print?
Yes, it is.
And can you explain why that may happen?
Yes, there are a couple of known reasons. You've heard me say a couple times that there's residue. So if you were to think about if you were to swipe across your forehead, you might feel a little bit of sweat on your fingers. That is a type of fingerprint residue. Fingerprint residue is really a generalized term used for any contaminant that is on the friction-rich skin when an item is touched. So if someone has drier hands, they may not have as much residue and therefore it may not leave a latent print at all. There's also the possibility that they did leave a latent print, but on something like a firearm, that's that non-porous surface, it was sitting on the surface, and if something was rubbed against it or it was placed in a pocket or something like that, it could be wiped off. And then there's also the chance that, like I said, friction-rich impressions can be made of things like sweat. After a certain length of time, sweat may evaporate. Something that was on the surface originally may no longer be there. So yeah, those are generally going to be the reasons why you can touch an item and not leave a print behind.
And so, as it relates to the firearm, there were no prints suitable for comparison.
Correct. I did not find any potentially suitable latent prints.
Now let's talk about the magazine.
Would you like me to go over how I processed it?
Yes, please.
So for the magazine, the first step I did was a visual examination again to see if there was any potentially suitable latent prints that were visible before processing. And then I moved on to that super glue fuming that I spoke about, followed by the fluorescent dye stain basic yellow.
And what were your results?
So for the magazine, when I did my visual examination, I did find potentially suitable latent prints, but there was no improvement after that initial step.
Now let's talk about the one cartridge. How did you process that?
So the cartridge was going to be the visual that I spoke about, followed by super glue fuming, as well as basic yellow. And then specifically for cartridges, I utilized something called gun blue. What this is going to do is instead of reacting with the fingerprint residue, it's actually reacting with the metal that the cartridge is made of. The fingerprint residue actually becomes a protectant. It's going to protect the metal underneath it, while the gun blue reacts to all the metal that doesn't have fingerprint residue on it and turns it a bluish gray color.
And what were the results for the one cartridge?
For the one cartridge, after visual, I did not see any potentially suitable latent prints. I did, however, find potentially suitable latent prints after super glue fuming, and those were improved after applying the basic yellow dye stain.
And so you ultimately did find suitable prints on the one cartridge for comparison.
So during the processing steps, we only consider if something is potentially suitable or not. The actual suitability for comparison is determined later on during the actual comparison portion.
So there were some potentially suitable prints on the one cartridge for comparison.
Correct.
Now I think the final item was the 10 cartridge.
Yes.
And what was the process that you used for that?
Those were going to be the same processes that I used on the other cartridge: visual, super glue fuming, basic yellow dye stain, and gun blue.
And were there any possible suitable prints for comparison for the 10 cartridge?
No, there were not.
Now, after you completed the processing of all 4 items, did you conduct any examinations for comparison?
I did not.
And based on the results of your examination, just for clarity, which items would have been possibly suitable for further comparison?
So after I did my processing, the magazine and one cartridge did have potentially suitable latent prints on them.
And were all of your results recorded and documented?
Yes, they were.
All right, let's see what he says. Can't be too outrageous, right? Over this.
Good.
I'll try to keep it short and sweet.
Appreciate it.
Could you clarify what you mean by magazine and cartridge?
So the magazine is going to be what holds the cartridges. It actually slides into the firearm. And the one cartridge is only separated from the other cartridges because it was the one that had positive results. They all would have initially been most likely in the magazine. When we received them at the lab, it does have to be unloaded, so I got them as separate entities.
So to kind of put it in layman terms, it's a clip to a gun and bullets in the gun, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And through all these testing and everything you did, nothing came out as conclusive to say that fingerprint was in this bag.
So in this particular instance, I only did the processing of these items. I was not the examiner who went and did the comparison.
But you stated earlier that there was nothing that was possibly suitable. So does that mean it's inconclusive that it was fingerprints that were misstated?
No, so what I did state was that there was potentially suitable latent prints found on the magazine and one cartridge. I would not have gone on further to determine if they were suitable for comparison or who they would have potentially been made by.
Okay, so you're not here to say that the fingerprints matched by, you're just talking about the process of how to collect it.
Correct, I only did processing in this case.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Haas. Standing call for this next witness, please.
Yes, Your Honor, the call is recurred. All right, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm the testimony you will provide to this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you may take a seat and pull yourself up to the microphone. All right, would you please state and spell your name for the record?
Emily Kuruc, Emilikuruc.
And where are you currently employed?
I'm employed with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Division of Forensic Sciences, also known as the State Crime Lab.
And what is your current position with the crime lab?
I'm a latent print examiner.
Now, how long have you been employed with the crime lab?
I've been with the crime lab for a little over 24 years, the last 15 of that as a latent print examiner.
And can you describe the education and training that qualifies you for this position?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree in criminal justice with a concentration in forensic investigations from Jacksonville State University in Jacksonville, Alabama. Since being employed with the GBI Crime Lab, I successfully completed their on-the-job training program for a latent print examiner, which was approximately a year and a half, and covered a wide range of subject matter related to latent prints, such as the history of the use of latent prints for identification, and the processing techniques that are involved in order to develop those. Then, of course, the examination, which includes the analysis thereof, database searches, and the like. And in 2014, I achieved my certification through the IAI, which is the International Association for Identification, as a latent print examiner.
Okay, and are you a member of any professional organizations?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Are you required to complete any continuing continuing education in your field?
Yes, we do have a certain number of hours of continuing education that we have to complete within an accreditation cycle. I think it's an average of 16 hours per year, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Now, have you ever been tendered as an expert in the court in the state of Georgia?
Yes, I have.
And how many times?
Approximately 45.
Okay, at this time, the state moves to tender this witness as an expert in the field of fingerprint examination and comparison.
Okay, so what can I say?
Okay, we just heard testimony from Ashley Haas, and it is my understanding that her role in this case was just to process the prints or lift the prints on items received from Clayton County Police Department. And that would have been a firearm magazine, and I think it was separated into one cartridge and a 10 cartridge. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, what was your role in this case?
My role was to examine the developed latent prints.
Should
And
take a
what
step
specific
further.
items or what specific items were sent to you that were possibly suitable for comparison?
What I had to examine are actually digital images of those developed latent prints.
And do you recall which items?
Yes, it was digital images from developed latent prints from the magazine and one of the cartridges.
Now, how are comparisons made? What is the process?
The process is I visually examine these latent prints. They're in digital format, so I do this on screen on the computer. I am reviewing the information that is available to me within that latent print. I'm looking for specific details that would allow me to make a comparison with a known print if I had known prints.
And did you have known prints in this case?
Yes.
And do you recall who those prints belong to?
Yes, I had a set of postmortem prints listed as from Kenneth Elton Herring, and then I had a set of finger and palm prints listed as being from Hannah Payne.
Now, can you walk us through the process of your examination for comparison for the digital images that you received for both items?
Yes. I was going to say, did you mean specifically from one item to the other?
For all the results for, I believe it would be listed in your report as 12B.
Okay. So the images of the developed latent prints from 12B and 12C were analyzed, and one latent print from each item. So one latent print from the magazine and one latent print from the cartridge was determined to be suitable for comparison, which means that there was enough detailed information in that latent print in order for me to put that side by side with another, or rather with the known prints, in order to make a comparison.
And did you do that?
Yes.
And what were your results for 12B, which would have been the magazine?
For 12B, I actually utilized two methods to compare these items. The first method that I used is using an AFIX tracker system, and that's a FIX tracker system. It allows me to create a mini database. When I have a latent print that I might not know exactly what area of the palm a latent print is coming from, or if I'm not certain of the orientation, then it allows me to enter those latent prints into that system and then also enter the known prints into that system, and it does a quick little search for me to help me see if there's anything that might line up that I would then want to visually compare. In that particular instance, for the latent print from 12B and also from 12C, I used that tracker system to do that search for me, and there were no identifications for that. I also visually looked for this print myself. The print from the magazine appears to be a partial palm print, and at least that's the way it looks, but there's not enough of the rich flow information that lets me be certain of that, so that's part of the other reason I used the tracker system. Then I visually looked for that latent print within the set of knowns as well. For 12B, I had inconclusive results because the palm prints that I was given for knowns to compare were not completely recorded, so I didn't have all of the information I needed in order to achieve a comparison. For the latent print from item 12C, those results were also inconclusive, but that was for a different reason. It just the latent print itself lacks sufficient detail in order for our procedures at the lab in order to be able to exclude it, because I didn't know the proper orientation of the latent print at the time.
So just to be clear, what would you have needed to get a conclusive result for 12B?
The rest of the palm prints, the palm prints that I had only went up to a certain point on the palm, and I needed to be able to see all areas of that friction-ridged skin. So up to and including where the palm connects to the fingers, we refer to that as the interdigital area. That portion of the palms was missing from the nose.
And what would you have needed to get conclusive results for 12C?
Well, it would either need to be an actual identification or it would always remain inconclusive.
And are your results recorded and documented?
Yes.
Thank you, Attorney Tucker. You can sit down.
Okay, Mr. Tucker.
Investigator Kuruc, correct?
It's not investigator.
Examiner. Yes, sir.
Kuruc, yes.
Okay, so basically your testimony is that whoever went and got the palm example for you did not get sufficient evidence for you to use.
However, it was taken. Known exemplars can be taken with ink and paper or cards, or if it's with a digital device, that's a flat screen of glass that's placed on there. So in some instances, depending on the structure of the hand, sometimes those areas don't even touch the glass to be recorded. So I don't know how they were taken, but yes, in some way they were lacking in the information.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to try to pose it as if somebody had done something wrong. The information you got was not sufficient for you to come to a conclusion.
Yes.
Okay. And so your results of all this was inconclusive, correct?
Correct.
No further questions.
Any redirect?
None further arguments.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. You may step down. You may call me next.
Hey, Shakonda Rosser.
Okay, so I believe this is an eyewitness. Things will start to step up a bit now. This witness's name is Shakonda Rosser.
If you would just stand up for me real quick and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give before the court of this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
You can take your hand down and have a seat. And are you requesting to keep your mask on for your testimony?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. If you would just make sure you're enunciating and speaking loudly enough for the court reporter to hear your answers and for the jury to hear you as well.
Okay.
If you would state and spell your name.
Shakonda Rosser, Shakonda, Rosser, Rosser.
And Ms. Rosser, back on May the 7th of 2019, were you in the area of Forest Parkway, Clark Howell, Upper Riverdale, and Riverdale Road, in that area?
Yes,
Why would you have been in that area?
I was traveling to a friend's house.
And do you remember about what time of day you were in that area?
I'm not certain.
Tell us how you were traveling from a friend's house. Or were you going to a friend's house or from?
To a friend's house.
And were you in a vehicle?
I was in a vehicle. I was in, I guess that would be the opposite direction in which the incident occurred.
Okay, so I'm going to use a map to see if that helps you in just a moment. Who was in the car with you?
I was by myself.
Just step down and try to take a look at Boulevard and the other main road, Riverdale Road, coming this way. Can you kind of tell us where you recall that you were traveling?
If I'm not mistaken, I think this is the way to get to the highway. I was coming down this way.
Okay.
In the far left lane, turning lane.
And so, for the record, since the record doesn't see the pointing, you're, I don't know if it's south, but as far as the map, you're going from the top of the map toward the bottom. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. As you were driving to your friend's house, did anything occur that drew your attention?
Yes.
And can you describe what drew your attention to anything else on the road?
What drew my attention was seeing the Jeep abruptly come around the rest of the traffic and stopped in front of a red truck. That's what drew my attention. I began to slow down.
Okay. And kind of describe, if you recall, what the traffic was like at that time of day when you're traveling on that particular day.
It was moderate. It wasn't too busy.
Okay. In the direction that you were traveling?
Yes.
And so when you indicated that you saw a Jeep drive abruptly around a truck, would that have been something the Jeep would have been traveling toward you?
Yes.
After you saw the Jeep drive around the truck, what did you see happen with that Jeep and that truck next?
I saw the Jeep block the truck in to where the truck couldn't move, and the truck tried to go forward, and there was impact. Once the impact happened, I saw smoke come from the truck and oil leaking from the truck. And after that, I saw a young lady get out the car.
And when you say the car, which car?
Out of the Jeep. I saw a young lady approach the truck and begin swinging and hitting the man that was in the driver's side of the truck.
Okay, from your angle, you could see that it was a female who got out of the Jeep?
Yes.
And how, from your angle, were you also able to see that there was a man in the truck?
Yes.
And when you're after you see the Jeep block the truck in, are you moving or are you still?
That's when I stopped.
Where did the driver of the Jeep go after she gets out of the Jeep?
She got out of her Jeep and she immediately went to the truck driver's side, yelling and punching.
Now, when you say punching, what was she punching?
She was punching the man in the truck repeatedly because his window was down, and she just kept punching him over and over and over.
And you indicated that that driver was yelling. Could you hear what she was saying when she got out yelling?
Could not hear what she was saying. I just know she was yelling at the driver of the truck.
From your vantage point, could you tell where on the driver of the truck she was punching?
To me, from what I saw, like I said, I was on the side. It looked as if she was punching him in the chest. It wasn't the face, it was a little lower, it's like in the chest area.
Were you able to see what the man in the truck was doing?
Yes.
What could you see about him?
He was sitting there. He didn't raise any hands or anything. He was just sitting there. That's what got my attention because he wasn't reacting. So I thought that was kind of odd, just sitting there and allowing somebody to punch him like that.
Did you ever see the driver of the truck? Did you ever see his hands at all?
No, not at that moment.
Okay. Could you see anything about the facial expressions or anything like that on the driver of the truck?
He looked confused and shocked. So I figured something was wrong with him.
Could you tell if he was saying anything?
No.
Let me clarify that. No, you couldn't tell, or no, you didn't. He wasn't saying anything to your knowledge.
To my knowledge, I didn't see his mouth moving. I didn't see him saying anything at that moment.
Based on your observations, were there other drivers in the area that were also stopped?
Yes.
After you see the driver of the Jeep at the window striking, what did you see next?
After she repeatedly punched him and yelled at him, she backed away. And after she backed away, I could see the gun on her hip. And she pulled the gun out after punching him repeatedly and asked him to get out the car. Now this is when it was a little louder. I cracked my window after this point, so I could hear her telling him to get out the car. She was pointing the gun at him, telling him to get out the car, get out the car. And I think she got a little frustrated because he wasn't getting out the car. So after that, she went back to the car and began punching him again.
And when you said back, when you said the car, she went back to which car?
The truck.
Okay.
She went back to the man's truck and began punching him again.
And does she have the gun at this point?
She has a gun in her hand. If I'm not mistaken, I believe she switched so she could continue to punch him. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead. You finish.
After she continued to punch him, she backed away from the truck again, had the gun held on him, told him to get out the car. He wasn't responding. He didn't say anything. So she went back to the car and tried to open the door.
And when you say the car,
the truck, I'm sorry.
That's
She
okay.
went back to the truck and she tried to open the door, but it was locked. So that's when I seen her reach inside the truck. It looked like she tried to open the truck from the inside. When she couldn't get the door open from the inside, I say maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes, that's when I heard the gunshot.
And where was the person with the woman with the gun? Where was her? Where was she physically when you heard the gunshot?
She was up on the truck, like right up on the driver's side window of the truck, right next to it.
And do you know where the gun was, based on your observation?
At that time, the gun was in her, if I'm not mistaken, right hand, but it was inside the truck. So, of course, with the door panel, I couldn't see what was going on after she stuck it in there, but the door wouldn't open. So I thought she was maybe trying to unlock it from the inside to get the door open.
Okay, that was what you observed. That's what you believed she was trying to do, was unlock the door.
Yes.
But when you hear the gunshot, I just want to make sure I understand, the hand or the arm with the gun was inside the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Based on your observations, did you see anyone try to intervene or to stop this from happening?
Yes.
What did you see?
I saw a bystander stop. He was in the passenger side of a truck. He got out the truck, tried to approach her, and at this time her back was turned. So he was approaching her from behind. And when she turned around with the gun, he just threw his hands up and walked back to the car that he came from.
Did you, I asked you a question earlier about when the person was striking the driver of the truck, and I asked if you saw his hands, and you said not at that moment. Was there any point in which you saw his hands?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever see the driver of the truck do anything aggressive toward the driver of the Jeep?
No, I think that's why it was shocking to me. Just seeing him sitting there taking what she was giving, I thought that was kind of shocking. He didn't even try to defend himself as far as putting his hands up or anything.
From your vantage point?
Yes, ma'am.
Based on your observations, could you describe the demeanor of the woman with the gun?
At what point?
Let's start when she first gets out of the Jeep. What do you see?
Anger. She was like, almost like she was in a rage, very highly upset. So that's what caught my attention at first to make me stop, like I said, because she blocked him in. And when he hit the impact, that's what made me stop. So she was angry at first.
And what else did you observe?
Just a lot of yelling. The punching, I think, the most shocked me the most. The repetitive punching. I mean, it was very hard. And it was like, you want to get out and help, but we didn't know what was going on. I honestly thought, maybe she was, I don't know, like a little, I don't want to say crazy, but she just seemed a little irate.
Okay. And when she pulled the gun, what was the demeanor?
Still angry. And at this point, he seemed frustrated because he wasn't complying with her.
And after the shooting, what were you able to observe the shooter do?
I saw her get on her phone. I saw her take whatever shirt she had on. If I'm not mistaken, I think she took it off. She went to her trunk and got another shirt and put that sweater or shirt on while she was on the phone, I'm assuming, with the police, I'm assuming.
And after the shot, did you see the shooter approach the man in the truck who had been shot?
After the shot, did I see her approach the man in the truck?
Yes.
From what I remember, after the shot, she was on the phone and she just changed her sweater and she was just kind of walking around. But I don't remember her going back to the truck, approaching the truck again.
On that date, on May the 7th of 2019, to your knowledge, had you ever seen the woman in the Jeep before?
No.
Had you ever seen the man in the truck before?
No.
And are you the only witness who stopped, or did other people stop and were milling about as law enforcement arrived?
Other people stopped. I was just the only one on my side.
That was facing the
Opposite way of
incident.
traffic, yes.
Did you know any of those other drivers?
No.
Any of the other witnesses that stopped and on scene, did you know any of those people?
No.
And did you provide police, did you stay on scene to talk to police?
Yes.
And did you provide a written statement?
Yes.
And was that a lengthy written statement with full of details, or tell us about the circumstances under which you wrote that statement?
No, it wasn't lengthy because I was kind of in a rush. I did write the major details of what happened.
And then did you later go to the police department for an interview and answer further questions?
Yes.
Just one moment.
She's just, her expression doesn't change.
Attorney Tucker, cross-examination.
Oh dear, prepare ourselves. He's going to get her all twisted around, let's face it.
Good afternoon, Ms. Rosser. How are you doing today?
Good.
My name is Matt Tucker. I'm the attorney for Ms. Payne. And I have a few questions to try to clarify what's going on.
A few. Okay,
Now,
sure.
you said that you were coming from a different direction on the highway, correct?
Yes.
And you were in the turn lane, turning which way?
Turning left.
So on this map here, you were coming down from the top part, turning left, going the opposite way, correct?
But I didn't make it to the turn.
Okay, didn't make it to the turn. Okay, so was there any cars in front of you, behind you?
There was one car in front of me that slowed down, but then they continued on.
Okay. And so how far away would you say that you were from the accident or the incident here, from where you were?
In yards, approximately,
Oh,
maybe no more than 10 yards, if that.
see, I wouldn't
And I
know
noticed you mentioned
yards.
yards. So you know the difference between feet and yards. Like a football field has yards.
That's kind of condescending.
You're saying you're 10 yards away from the incident.
10 or less, definitely no more than 10.
Okay, and you stopped. Did you stop in the intersection? Did you stop before going into the intersection?
I stopped before going into the intersection. I was basically neighbors with the incident. I was right next to them.
10 yards from them, correct?
Possibly less than 10 yards. I'm not good at estimating distance.
I wouldn't have said yards or
So
feet.
would you say this is 10 yards between me and you?
Maybe.
Okay. How close, if I was step forward, just say how close you were?
You know, he's going to go on with this and get her all messed up.
I mean, about right here.
Maybe right at the podium, probably.
Oh, right here?
Right there.
Okay, so that's how far you were excuse me, from the incident that you saw.
Yes.
And you stated that you saw, it looked like radiation fluid coming from the truck or oil coming from the truck?
Yes.
Radiation?
Right now, was the
Is it
truck
radiation? Or
on the
radiating?
other side of the Jeep, or was it behind the Jeep?
The truck was in a forward-going motion. The Jeep, came around the truck. So I guess it would be on the side of the Jeep because she blocked him in.
Yeah, not there. I made a pressure on. Is that kind of the angle that you saw, or?
That's what I was saying, the side of the Jeep. It was on the side.
These are ones of the previous, and I'm showing her. Exhibit number 4 and 7. Exhibit number 4 and 7. But from what you see right there, is that a fair and accurate representation of what the accident looked like that you saw?
Yes.
Okay, and the one I showed first, the exhibit number 5, is that a fair and accurate representation of what you saw with the accident?
Yes.
Okay, is that exactly how it looked like on number 5, the first one I put down there?
Yes.
At this time, Your Honor, I would like to introduce exhibit number 5.
Any objection from the two? No objection, Judge.
And the other two have already been introduced. Okay. So looking at that right there, you can see that the Jeep was in front of the truck, correct? Mm-hmm. And you were on the other side looking.
Ms. Rosser, you have to articulate because the court reporter is recording everything, so she doesn't have the ability to record. So you have to articulate. Okay.
And you were on the other side, so you could see the Jeep before you could see the truck, correct?
Yes. But at the angle I was at, I could see both cars, of course. But yes.
If I may, Brooke. So you're saying here, coming down there, and you're going to turn this way, correct? And the incident happened kind of here, correct? Or a little higher. You can stand up.
Where's the highway? I'm on this road, on the far left lane to get ready to turn left. But I didn't make it to the light to turn left because I stopped because of the incident.
So whereabouts did you stop?
When I say like right across from the incident, if I can ask a question, is this the highway? Is this where you get ready to get on the highway? Okay. Okay. Well, right before the turn, before you get on the highway, that's exactly where I stopped on the opposite side. So I didn't make it as far as the light to get ready to turn left. I wanted to turn left, but I didn't make it that far. So we're saying right up in here somewhere.
Okay, and where did the incident occur?
On the opposite side of where I was. So I guess over in here somewhere, right before you get ready to turn on the
What is
highway.
that expression he just made? I don't like that.
To make the turn. So I didn't get as far as here. There was a line of cars here. So I had to be somewhere right up in here and where the incident was. I just know that he was headed towards the highway. He was in the turning lane for the highway, but she stopped it.
So nothing occurred over here.
What area?
This area down there.
No, we were on that side.
Okay.
What is that expression? I don't like his expression.
Okay, so
It's like he's mocking
you're
her.
saying this occurred up closer to the highway, correct?
Yes, sir, right before you get ready to get on the highway.
Or were there any medians in there before you get to the highway?
On my side or her side?
Any
on
side.
The incident side.
Any
there was
side.
a median in between my side and their side.
Okay. Did you see any vehicle jump over that median? Or any vehicle jump over the median?
I just remember her coming around. Because mind you, I was approaching the incident as it was, as it was what made me stop was her coming around the truck. So if she did jump a median, that part I did not see. I just saw as she came around and she blocked me.
And at any time that you're looking and seeing what's going on, did you see her jump into the window?
Jump into the window?
Yes, ma'am.
No.
Okay. And at any time did you see her come out of the Jeep with a gun and hold of that gun point?
No, that's not how it happened.
Okay. And
So it looks like to me, excuse me, he's trying to get everybody all confused, especially the jury, because as you remember, I think her name was Tiana McRae, the young lady, where she was confused about some things, most of it not. But see, he's fixated on the median jumping, and really that's neither here nor there. But he's gonna do that and then say, where the position she was. It's gonna differ. People forget, but he's gonna hammer away at those things that really don't mean that much. I mean, it would be if it's about credibility, but I don't think, I think it would be hard for people to remember certain things. At the end of the day, let's face it. Let's face what happened. We know.
And as you were going, you said there was a vehicle in front of you, correct? And you were watching that vehicle in front of you go out through the turn, or did they stop?
Well, not really watching them on my peripheral. I just noticed they slowed down and then they took off. They slowed down, I guess, because they saw the commotion as well, and then they sped up and went ahead and went forward. I stopped because the whole thing was shocking.
Okay. So you stopped and you're about, say, 10 yards away from it, and you said...
Less.
10 yards, I'm sorry. Okay, and you said that...
or less.
She didn't have the gun drawn or anything, correct?
Not when she first got out, no.
But you said you just walked up, just started beating. Okay. And did you notice the windows were tinted or anything like that on the truck?
The truck's windows were down.
Okay. And did you notice the race of the driver of the truck?
Yes.
Okay, what was that race?
The black.
Okay. And it was a white female that came out of the Jeep, correct?
Yes.
And you said at one point there was a vehicle that stopped and came to assist, correct?
Yes.
And you said, what was the race of the person who came out of the car? On the passenger side.
It was a white male.
Okay, who was on the driver's side?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And you
What does
said
that have to do with
he
anything?
came out to assist. Where was he at in this diagram up here, ma'am?
Easy to show it on here. Oh. He stopped. He was on the same side of the incident, and he actually stopped.
And feel free to stand up and show us if you don't mind.
He's doing that because he knows she's confused about where the highway is, which I would be too.
Excuse me. He was on the same side of the incident, which was this lane. So he might have stopped maybe a few feet. If the incident was here, he stopped a few feet in the middle and got out and approached the young lady.
So he'd been right there beside you or kind of
He was
adjacent?
ahead of me.
Okay, so he's ahead of you between you and the incident, correct?
Yes.
He didn't hinder your vision in any form or
No.
fashion? Okay. And he got out and walked up and she turned around. Did you see a gun pointed at this individual?
She had the gun in her hand. He tried to approach her. It seemed like he tried to calm her down, see what was going on. Like I said, he approached her from behind. Once she turned around and he saw the gun, he threw his hands up and he got back in his car.
But she never put the gun up to put at him or
No.
okay. And you said at this time the gun was in which hand?
At that time, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the right hand.
Okay. And she was punching with which hand?
Which time, first or second?
Anytime. You go first, you said the first. So what time is she punching?
The first time she was punching, if I'm not mistaken, with her right hand. She just, with her right hand. She just kept punching over and over.
Okay, and then when you said that she pulled the gun out, which hand she pulled the gun out with?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe she pulled the gun out with her left hand.
Her left hand.
She pulled it out with her left hand.
Was it on her right hip or her left hip?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was on her left side.
Oh no, see.
I think it was,
Yeah, remember initially she said it was her right hip. But see, now she's gotten confused. And now he's really gonna make it worse. For years, that's hard to remember stuff.
I think it was on her left side.
So she's punching. She goes, pulls the gun from the left side.
She wasn't punching at the time she pulled the gun. She punched. She stepped back, pulled the gun out, held the gun, then proceeded to go back to the car and began punching again.
Right. And you said she switched the gun with the hands.
I believe so.
Okay, so she pulled the left arm, she switched it up to go with the left.
To go punch again.
With the left hand.
Are you saying hold the gun with the left hand or punch with the left hand?
You said that in your words. I want you to explain. She
He's
pulled the gun
getting
out
it too
with the left
confusing
hand.
for her. Stop
And you
it.
said at one point she switched the gun.
I think
with
she,
the other hand.
from what I remember, this was a long time ago, she pulled the gun out with her left hand, but she was holding it. Get out the car.
She was holding it with both hands.
Once he didn't comply, she came up to the car, and I believe that's when she switched hands, so she began punching again.
And she switched hands to which hand?
I believe she switched to the left. Because if I'm not mistaken, I believe she was punching with the right hand.
And she pulled the gun with the left hand.
Because I believe it was on her left
Stop
side.
it. He's going to go on and on with
She
this.
switched it back to the left.
When she was punching.
Okay, so at one point she had it in her right hand.
Yes. You said at what point?
Yes, sir.
After she finished punching for the first time, she pulled it out, pointed the gun, and if I'm not mistaken, she had both hands on the gun. When she got ready to approach again to punch again, maybe that's what it is, the gun was switched so she could punch. So the right hand.
Oh
The right hand.
no, poor lady.
Because when she reached in the car, the gun was in that same right hand.
Okay. All right. But you remember writing a statement for the police that day, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall telling the police that she was waving the gun?
No.
If I may approach Your Honor.
When you say waving, are you saying above her head? Because you did a motion like above her head.
Hold for a second, Ms. Rosser.
Oh, she's all befuddled. It's probably very emotional for her to view all that also.
If I may approach Your Honor.
Yes.
And anything, if I do an action or something that's not reflective of what you said, please feel free to correct it, okay?
Okay.
And if you read that.
Okay, that's the one good thing he said. That's probably going to be it.
Okay.
No, just refresh your memory. You don't have to read it out loud, you can refresh your memory. And having read that, do you recall now saying or writing down for the police that she was waving a gun?
Yes, I believe I used the wrong terminology.
Okay. So, but when you said it there and you said waving, what could you possibly meant?
I meant waving in the, like this, not above her head.
So not pointing, but waving.
Pointing the gun at the man.
Okay.
Yes.
But in the terminology used in the police report, you said waving, correct?
Yeah, I said she waved it at him.
Okay. And do you recall So you said that even though you were 10 yards possibly, maybe shorter, you said there was another individual got in his car to try to help.
Yes.
Okay. How far was he from her?
When he got out of the car or when he stopped the car?
Either one. Both of them. How about that?
When he stopped the car, I was approximately, because my eyes was focused on, mainly on her and the man in the truck. But I did see him stop. So I would say approximately, maybe 20, 30 feet, maybe.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't say the feet or the yards.
Now you were using yards earlier. Is there any
Oh, here we
possible way
go.
to say how many yards?
Okay,
Oh, come on, he's confusing her.
maybe 5.
Okay, so he's
Oh.
a little closer to the incident, say not this far.
Give or take.
Okay. And at that point, you said he walked up behind Miss Payne, correct?
Yes,
So you couldn't see what Miss Payne was doing because he obstructed your vision,
he didn't
correct?
obstruct my vision.
He did.
That's right. She said that earlier.
How
He
big
did
of a
not.
man was he?
How big of a man? was
Yeah, what that individual that you said came
Oh,
out
for
to
gosh
assist.
sake.
Maybe 6 feet, but he never stepped in front of me.
Okay, but you were saying she was right there.
No, he's trying to confuse her
On my side,
because
I could see her. He stopped ahead.
I remember earlier she said that he was the man that got out to try to stop her. He was in front of her, but not to where he blocked her view. So now he's putting words into her mouth. Poor woman.
Okay, when he walked up, you said behind her, correct?
Yeah, her back was turned to him as he was approaching her.
So you could see through him to see her?
Oh, come
He
on.
never
That's
obstructed my
not
view.
what she
He was
said.
ahead of me. I'm here, he's coming this way, but I'm stopped right here.
Okay,
He
so
never obstructed my view.
so he's coming back. Okay, and he's coming back, and she's in front of you. Okay,
To my side. Let me-
Just because I'm having a problem with this, could you show me again on the
You know,
diagram right there exactly where they were and you were?
he needs to stop.
Okay.
I think he's had to show so many times.
The incident is on the opposite side of me. He may have stopped here and got out the car, stopped the car here, but he got out and began to approach. So that's why he never obstructed my view, because I'm here.
Okay. Did you have a green light to turn? Because you said the car in front of you went forward, right?
Oh yeah, the green light changed about 2 or 3 times. I never moved.
Okay. And you're saying that the individual came through the intersection and stopped, or did he stop in the intersection?
A little past the intersection.
And you don't recall if the light was green or red or...
At that time, no.
Okay. And he coming from behind the incident, came up behind him, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then he got back into his car.
Yes.
All right. Did he ever leave that scene?
After he got in the car, they took off.
They took off. How'd they go around the incident?
Well, it wasn't. Remind you, the incident happened in the far right lane. So we still had, I think, 2 lanes that were open, 2 or 3 lanes that were open.
So it would have been easy for any car kind of to get around this incident, correct?
Yes. If
I mean,
they weren't stopped too close.
Okay. So they could have gone around the left or they could have gone around the right, correct?
No, they couldn't have gone around the right. The right is the median. But they could have gone around the left.
Don't make that face. You're confusing her.
Okay.
If they would have went around the right, they would have been in the grass to go around it. But if they would have run around the left, there was a 1 or 2 lanes, I believe, that's already open.
Okay, so, but the grass had no median, had no barrier, had no concrete to stop them from going in the grass, correct?
A curb.
A curb, it did have a curb?
There was a curb on the right side of the incident, yes.
Okay, you are about to make an approach.
Oh my gosh.
You said these were where they were at.
We can't.
Okay, I was
Yeah.
reporting to her that where the incident occurred, that she's already verified as where it was. I showed her where the truck was and what would be considered the right side. Looking at
Make sure you refer to the exhibit.
defense exhibit number
Yeah.
7.
being
That
too
was
slimy.
4 to 4. Okay. So to this exhibit number 4, you can see the truck, correct?
Yes,
And you can see to the right of the truck, correct?
yes.
And what is located on the right of the truck?
The sidewalk and the curb.
And is there grass?
There's grass.
Okay. And there is no median there, correct?
Let
right
the
side.
median thing go.
So
Cares if
you're
you shove grass
stating-
or not.
And on the other side, is there any median or curb?
Not immediately on the left, no.
Okay. So that was the area that was clear that cars could go around,
And that's how that car proceeded.
and that car didn't stay around to give a statement.
Not that I know of.
But they generally got out and felt compelled to help, and then got back in his car and just drove off.
Yeah, after she turned around with the gun in his hand, I think it kind of spooked him. That's why he got back in the car.
Yeah.
But he didn't stay around to give
Okay,
an
you've
account of
already
what
asked
happened.
this
Not that I know of. I saw him get back in the car.
Asked
He was driving.
and
They pulled
answered.
off. If they stopped down the road, I'm not sure.
Okay. And you said from your view, you could see the face of the driver of the truck.
Yeah, I could see his face.
Okay. And you said that you saw hands only on the outside of the truck punching, correct?
Could you repeat that?
You saw hands on the outside of the truck being punched.
Yeah, I just saw her throwing punches.
Okay. But you stated earlier you saw the punches were hitting him in the chest.
Yes.
Okay. And you stated you didn't see any of his hands.
His hand?
Yes.
No, that's what shocked me and made me stay there. Because he wasn't fighting back.
And was that shocking that somebody wouldn't use their hands to block or to roll up the window?
You saying, is it shocking that somebody would do that?
That you said it was shocking what you saw.
Because he wasn't fighting back. Yeah.
Okay, so because he didn't use his hands or because he didn't roll up the window, that's what you felt was shocking.
Yes.
Okay. And you said that she was really punching hard, right?
Yes.
So punching that hard would have left a mark or a scrape or some kind of bruise, correct?
As hard as she was punching.
Hey, stop.
Speculation at this point. She doesn't know what kind of mark would have been left. She only described what she
Exactly.
saw. She can't say or speculate as to what the outcome of that would be.
And I can qualify that.
I doubt
can
it. Nah.
rephrase it to qualify
Sustained.
that question.
Okay, I will sustain the objection.
Yes. Thank you, Judge.
Right. So you said that she was punching real hard, correct? Have you ever seen somebody else punch real hard like that?
Come on. He's so condescending.
Yes.
Okay. And did you see the results of when somebody was
Come
punching that hard?
on.
No, it was on mine.
Okay. So, from your view and from your opinion, she was punching real hard.
That's what shocked me the most, yes.
Okay. And you stated earlier that it was punching him in the chest.
From my vantage point, that's where it looked like the punches were landing on his chest.
Okay. Did it ever look like a punch in the face or
Never
anything?
saw one in the face, no sir.
Right. So when you say on the chest, was he leaning back in
No,
the
he
car
was-
where he's sitting?
Actually, he was sitting up in the truck in his chair, but just taking them. You could just see, I could see his body taking the punches, but I never saw him in the face.
Okay. So here's the window here, correct?
Oh,
And if he was
gosh.
driving, he would be facing this way, correct?
Yes,
And she's punching from this direction, correct?
yes, the driver's side, yes.
How in the world is she coming out of him in the chest?
I mean, you have two sides of your chest. It was close. I'm assuming the one closest to the window, that's where she was
So
punching.
she wasn't hitting him in the shoulder, it was the
It
chest.
looked like the chest was taking the hits. I mean, but she was just wailing. Some could have hit the shoulder, but it was never in the face. It was always below the chin. That's what I saw.
How did she get around the shoulder? From your viewpoint,
Oh, my God.
it
The
didn't look
shoulder
like
is right there by the door, so she could have possibly punched the shoulder and the chest. It was just, I never saw her hit him in the face. It was just his chest.
Okay. And do you recall making any other statements about this incident to the media or to the detectives in an interview?
No, I declined.
You never talked to the detectives in the interview?
The detective, but not the media.
Okay. So, do you recall speaking to the detective?
Yes.
Do you recall what date that was that you talked to him?
I'm not sure, but it might have been June.
Might have been June, so it was a lot longer than being right there at the incident, correct?
A lot longer, but it was definitely after the incident.
The incident happened on May 7th.
Mm-hmm.
If that helps you qualify.
I don't remember the exact date, but it was definitely a week or so or more after the incident.
Okay. So, and you recall speaking to the detectives, correct?
Yes.
All right. In those statements, did you give any accounts different than what you're giving now?
No, just more detailed.
Okay. And your detail was that he hit the car before she got out of the car, correct?
It was almost to the point where he had no choice but to hit her because she blocked him in.
Okay.
It's like he was trying to take off forward, and she stopped that forward progress.
So she's coming around, and he hit her. He didn't stop and then hit her, or did?
Well, he was at a stop, but he was taking off to get ready to proceed. But as he was doing it, she came around, and I think that's when the collision happened.
Okay, so your testimony is that he hit her before she got out of the car. He hit her Jeep before she got out of the car.
No, that doesn't sound right.
She blocked the truck. Yes, before she got out of the car.
But the impact was, as you said, continuously to hit. It wasn't a stop and then he hit her.
No, he was stopped. Like I said, he was stopped, but he was proceeding to go forward. She came around, and as he was going forward, that's when the impact happened.
Oh, there you go.
And I don't want to keep, so the impact was continuous as he's coming around. Like you said, he was stopped with it. He came forward as she was coming around. So as she's coming around, the hit happened then, correct?
Almost like he couldn't help it, yes.
And that's when she came out of the car, just immediately started hitting him.
She got out of the car yelling first before she started hitting him.
And what was she yelling?
I couldn't hear what she was yelling. I just know she was yelling at him.
Okay. And I noticed that at one point you said that you stayed in your car, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you rolled your window down so you could hear what was going on, correct?
Yes.
Did you call 911 at that time?
I was in shock.
Okay. Did you think you should have called 911 at that time?
I seen other people's on their phone, so I figured they were calling 911.
Don't try
so
to.
You're paying attention to the car in front of you that's going through the intersection, right?
Peripheral, because I was looking at them the whole
And you're
time.
paying attention
No,
to
he's
people
filling
around
in
you
the
calling
blanks.
911.
Not while I was watching the incident.
Okay, I asked.
That was my focus.
I asked you a specific question. When you were watching this incident,
He's so annoying.
did you feel that you needed to call 911? And your response was, I saw other people on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're watching the other people.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Okay, and you're saying clearly that the gun was not pulled until after she's up on the window, correct?
The gun was not pulled until after she punched him and she backed away from the window.
But my specific question was, she didn't come out with the gun pulled. She went to the vehicle first. The gun was not pulled.
No.
Okay. And you didn't hear what was being exchanged back and forth, did you?
Not at that time until I rolled the window down.
Okay. And you stated that, what kind of shirt was she wearing that day before you said she changed her?
If I'm not mistaken, I'm not really sure, but I think it was a white shirt, possibly. Long sleeve, maybe. I'm not sure. I just remember it was a pink sweater.
No, not that she went to her car and changed it.
Initially what she had on. I'm not sure. I think it might have been a white shirt.
A white shirt. Okay, long sleeve.
Possibly.
Okay. Do you recall what the shirt looked like before she went to her vehicle and put another one on?
No.
Okay. But you were watching everything that was going on, correct?
Yes.
Because it shocked you want to see what was happening.
Yes.
Okay. And you stated, and I think in your report, you stated to the detectives that she went and put a pink sweater on, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then you said you're not sure why she did that.
Yes.
Okay. Well, why was that something that kind of stuck in your head?
Because it was odd.
It was odd that she went and put a sweater on.
Yeah.
Among, with what was happening, yes, it was odd.
Okay. But you didn't see the first shirt. Did she take that first shirt off before putting the sweater on?
Oh, for
I
gosh
can't
sake.
recall.
Did she have anything in her hands as she was putting that sweater on?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe at that time she had her cell phone.
Okay. And did you see where the cell phone was during this whole occurrence?
No.
But she never, as she was there beside the vehicle, she didn't go back and get the cell phone, did she?
I don't recall.
Okay. Did you recall if there was anything on the ground around her as she was beside the truck?
No, I don't recall.
Okay. But you don't recall where she pulled the phone from, correct?
No,
Okay.
I was still in shock.
And you say shock, so you're in shock. Did that compromise what you're looking at or what you're going to perceive it to be?
No, it just made me stare at the victim.
Are you scared for the victim? In what way?
It made, excuse me,
Oh.
it just made me stare at him because I kept saying to myself, I hope she don't shoot him. And when I heard the gunshot, he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he just had this look on his face.
Oh my gosh.
So that's what I was staring at. But
Poor
I do
woman.
remember her putting the shirt on.
And ma'am, if you need a moment, if she needs a moment, do you need some water?
I'm okay.
Maybe you could finish up your questioning. That would be helpful.
And I'm sorry to bring these emotions out. You were looking him in the eye, you said?
Yeah, after the gunshot went off, like I said, I couldn't see inside the car, but I just heard the gunshot. He was looking at me, and I looked at him. He just looked shocked. He just looked shocked.
And when you say you were looking at him, was he looking through his windshield?
No, he was
Oh,
looking
was
out
he?
the
Oh,
driver's,
it's a
the
dumb
driver's
question.
side of the car, but the window wasn't up, it was down.
So he was looking at you through the window.
Yes. Well, the window wasn't up, so just through the door.
So he was looking through the open window.
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned at one time she reached in there to unlock the door.
Yes, I think that's what she was attempting to do.
Which hand did she use to unlock the door? Or to
Oh
attempt to unlock
gosh.
the door?
The same hand the gun was in.
So she had the gun in her hand to go unlock the door?
She had the gun in her right hand. She pulled the door from the outside, it went open. And that's when she went inside the car. I can't say what she was doing because I couldn't see behind the panel of the door. But I was assuming she was trying to open the door from the inside, but the gun was in the same hand.
The gun was in the same hand.
Yes.
Okay. But you said that she stepped back and shot the gun from outside the window.
I did not.
Okay. Did you see
Good for
when the
you.
gun went off?
He's really
Just
trying
heard
to
it.
Okay.
mess them
so
up.
it's fair to say you didn't see where the gun was when the shot went off.
Correct.
Okay.
Prosecution's face is like, what the hell are you saying, man?
And you stated that there were a lot of people around there. If you need to take a moment to take a sip of water, you can.
Okay.
Okay. So
Poor
you
thing.
said there were a lot of people around there calling 911, correct? And you stayed there to talk to the police or call 911, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But at no time did you see the individual that got out of the car to go up and assist. You never saw him again, right?
How many times is he going to ask that question? He's already asked it multiple times.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Oh, bless her heart.
I'm okay.
You're good. All right. Now, and I'm going to harp on this much more, but the
Yeah, you
individual
will.
that pulled up, the white guy that got out to walk there, you didn't see him after the incident walking up speaking to the police by the name of Erickson?
No, I didn't see him.
Did you see anybody there that, when they were speaking with the police, that could have possibly been named Erickson?
How the heck is she gonna know that? Leave it
But he
alone.
was with somebody else in that vehicle.
Oh my gosh. She said she didn't see him
And you
after.
were in the car by yourself, correct?
Yes.
And what you perceived to be her reaching in there trying to unlock the door, open the door, you didn't see really if she was grabbing the lock or not, or was she grabbing the handle in the front of the door or the lock at the back?
She was grabbing the handle on the driver's side and the front.
So the handle would be on the front of the door in there?
Yes.
Okay. But you said you couldn't see anything further than that because there's a
Because of the panel of the door.
panel of the door. Okay. And that is I don't know if it's in or not. Let me approach real quick.
Oh God, please leave this woman alone.
And that written statement right there, is that a true and correct accusation or accurate picture of what you filled out that day?
Yes.
Is that your signature at the bottom?
Yes.
At this time, Your Honor, I would tender Defense Exhibit number 9 into evidence.
Any objection? Admitted without objection.
Well, look, he's conferring with his co-counselor.
And one more. So, the
Oh,
individual
God.
that walked up there to assist the white guy.
Oh my
did anybody
gosh.
walk behind him and grab him and pull him back to the car, or did he turn around and walk himself?
Apparently, Hannah or somebody has testified, or there's something in the report, but he's going to hammer away. The woman said she didn't see it. Why does he keep asking over and over again? She doesn't remember seeing him after that. He says he won't harp on it too much, but all he's doing is harping. Oh, he's so annoying.
From what I remember, I believe he turned around and walked himself. I think the gun scared him. He walked away.
So nobody else from that vehicle came out and kind of pulled him back.
Not that I remember.
No further questions.
No further questions for Ms. Rosser.
Okay. May Ms. Rosser be excused at this time? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Rosser. You may step down.
You know, that was probably a very smart move on the prosecution's part, because if they did redirect, then he would probably get up again and it would just make the situation worse. So I think they were very smart to just let it go at that point. That poor woman, you know, what she had to witness. So sad. Oh, he's such an annoying man. Ugh. Okay.
Does the state have another witness that it?
We had to send that witness phone based on the technology not working. All of the remaining witnesses that we had
We need
All-
the technology.
depended on the technology that is not functioning.
Okay, so counsels, please approach.
So I'm pretty sure that's going to be a wrap, because they need technology people or technology, something like that. And so that is going to be it for that day. But I'll go ahead and try to continue on with the next witness. So it's actually a new day. This is technically day 3. Just can tell you that's why they're different clothes. I've combined part of day 2, day 3, just because of time wise. But we are on a new day, but same order of witnesses and all that good stuff. The first witness up now, or the next witness, first one for this day, I believe is going to be the medical examiner. Mean mug Hannah, man. She's just, I mean, I can imagine she's not happy, but she's just like, I'm curious as to fellow being under, I don't guess he's a journalist, but he's maybe just an interested citizen.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, hope that you're well this morning and that you got some rest last night and that you're prepared to hear another day of evidence. And so at this time, I'm going to ask the state to call its next witness.
The state calls Dr. Stacey Desamours. Okay, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm the testimony that you will provide to this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Would you have a seat and pull yourself up to the microphone? All right. Will you please state and spell your name for the record?
Good morning. I'm Dr. Stacey Desamours, spelled Stacey, last name Desamours.
And what is your current occupation?
I am currently the Deputy Chief Medical Examiner at the Cobb County Medical Examiner's Office in Marietta, Georgia.
And how long have you been practicing medicine?
I have been practicing forensics pathology specifically just over 14 years.
And are you board certified?
Yes, board certified in anatomic pathology and forensic pathology.
And can you please explain to the jury your educational background from undergraduate all the way through your fellowship?
Yes, I earned a bachelor's degree in biology from UCLA, then completed a anatomic pathology medical school at the Morehouse School of Medicine in Atlanta, Georgia, then an anatomic pathology residency training program in Davis, California, at University of California, Davis, and then completed a forensic pathology training program at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office through Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia.
And after completing your fellowship, where did you begin working?
I began my career at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the GBI, at the headquarters laboratory in Decatur, Georgia.
Now, can you describe your job duties as a forensic pathologist?
In general, my duties are to perform autopsies to determine the cause and manner of death in cases that are reported to the medical examiner's office, then prepare a report of my findings and occasionally testify in court, as today.
Now, as a medical examiner, are you required to complete any continuing education?
Yes.
And what does that involve?
Yes, for our continuing medical education, we are required to complete 70 hours of continuing medical education units per every 2 years.
And approximately how many autopsies have you performed in your career as a medical examiner?
Over my career, about 4,000.
And have you testified in court before?
Yes.
And about approximately how many times?
Probably around 130 times, several times here in Clayton County.
Now, at this time, Your Honor, the state moves to tender this witness as an expert in the field of forensic pathology.
Okay, so
Yeah, sit down.
she is admitted as an expert in forensic pathology.
And Dr. Desamours, what is pathology?
Pathology is a subspecialty of medicine that deals with the diagnosis of diseases.
And what is forensic pathology?
Forensic pathology is a subspecialty within pathology that deals with the investigation of sudden and unexpected deaths and also the interpretation of injuries.
And can you explain what an autopsy is?
Sure. An autopsy is basically a physical examination of a person who's died. We start by examining all of the external body surfaces, looking for any evidence of natural disease or injuries that may have caused or contributed to a person's death. And then we open the body cavities and examine all of the internal organs, looking for evidence of the same.
Now, did you perform an autopsy on the body of Kenneth Herring in connection with GBI case number 2019-1012838?
Yes.
And when did this autopsy take place?
May 8th, 2019.
And during this autopsy, did you follow the same procedures that you just described as far as external and internal examination?
Yes,
Now, did you publish a report in reference to this autopsy?
I did.
And were photos taken during this autopsy?
Yes.
Now, during your external examination of Mr. Herring's body, did you find any external evidence of injury?
I did.
And what did you find?
There was a small bruise here on the left upper chest region near the collarbone and a gunshot wound of the abdomen.
Now, prior to you conducting your autopsy, what type of things would you have to, I guess, refer to before you begin your examination?
The investigators at the GBI investigate the death and prepare an initial report of their findings, and I would have had that to review prior to the autopsy examination.
And was there anything of significance that you found in that report?
Anything of significance? Can you be a little bit more specific?
Was there anything in that investigative report that led you to conduct any further examinations in this case?
Well, we were told that Mr. Herring sustained a gunshot wound. We were told some initial information about his medical history and that the death was being investigated by the police.
And was there any indication regarding any, you said medical condition?
Yes, we were told that specifically that he had a medical history of hypertension and diabetes.
Once you heard that, or once you learned that there was a history of hypertension and diabetes, did you conduct any tests regarding diabetes and hypertension?
Yes, as a part of the autopsy examination, because he had a medical history of diabetes, I conducted a test that helps to look for any evidence of elevated blood sugar.
And did you find any elevated levels of blood sugar?
It was not elevated.
And can you explain why that may have been?
So the test, more specifically, the test can show us if his blood sugar was elevated at the time of death, but it cannot tell us if the blood sugar was low after death. When a person dies, the blood sugar continues to be metabolized very, very quickly. So even in a person whose blood sugar was normal at their time of death, that test would show low blood sugar. That's just the normal course of what we call post-mortem change. So if his blood sugar was already low, there's no way for me to differentiate if he had a low blood sugar at the time of death versus the normal post-mortem lowering of the blood sugar.
You would not have known if the EMTs or the hospital had provided him any insulin after the shooting?
No, I was not given that information.
Now, in conducting your examinations, is there any review of any toxicology reports?
In this case, yes, I submitted blood specimens for toxicology.
And what were the results?
He had a negative comprehensive blood screen.
Can you explain what this comprehensive toxicology would have entailed?
Yes, so the comprehensive blood screen at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation tests for all the major and common drugs of abuse, and there are hundreds of different additional drugs that the panel covers.
And you said everything was negative?
Yes.
And what about the blood alcohol content?
It was negative as well.
Well.
Now, going back to the external examination of Mr. Herring, you indicated that there was a bruise a small bruise where?
Over the left clavicle region.
Any other external evidence of injury?
Yes, a gunshot wound of the abdomen.
Now, can you describe to the jury what stippling is?
So let's go back a little bit. When a gun is fired, not only the bullet leaves the barrel of the gun, but the bullet is accompanied by different gases of combustion and also burned and unburned gunpowder particles. The burned gunpowder particles are very light, like soot, like ash, and they don't fly very far from the barrel of the gun after it's fired. So if we see soot around the wound, we know that the barrel of the gun was in close proximity in general, we talk about general ranges, within a few inches of the body. The unburned gunpowder particles, however, are heavier, so they're able to fly a little bit further from the gun. And so when we see these little marks, these tiny little marks on the skin caused by those unburned gunpowders, that is stippling. And when we see those marks on the skin, we know that in general, the muzzle of the gun was within a few inches, up to about 2 to 3 feet, depending on the ammunition and the weapon used.
And did you find any soot in this gun?
There was no soot.
Did you find stippling?
Yes, we found very few stippled abrasions, as we call it, or stippled marks around the gunshot wound.
And just to be clear, what would that have indicated to you?
That would indicate at least there was between a few inches to 2 to 3 feet from the body.
And showing you what has been previously marked as State's Exhibits 32, 33, 34, and 35. Now, do you recognize those photos?
I do.
What do you recognize those photos to be?
These are pictures taken at the time of autopsy of Mr. Herring's body.
And do they appear to be in the same? Do they appear to be the pictures that were taken by you during this autopsy?
Yes.
All right, the state moves to enter State's Exhibit 32, 33, 34, and 35. Any objection?
Admitted without objection.
Permission to publish State's Exhibits. You may publish. All right, we're showing you State's Exhibit 32. Okay.
Just doesn't seem like she's, oh, look at her jotting down things. No emotion for the victim.
I'm showing you State's Exhibit 32. Would this have been an ID photo of Mr. Herring once he came into the lab?
That's correct.
And that number that we see would be the GBI number that's associated with his case?
Yes.
And now I'm showing you State's Exhibit 33. Okay, and in State's Exhibit 33, what are we seeing here?
Just above the ruled placard that bears the decedent's assigned case number, there is a circular defect there that is a gunshot and entrance wound.
All right, and I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 34. And is this the same gunshot wound, just zoomed in further?
Yes.
Now, can you tell us what the entrance, where the bullet would have entered?
That is the entrance wound.
And the direction of the bullet?
The direction of the bullet through the body, the path through the body, the bullet traveled from the front of the body toward the back. Very slight right to left deviation through the body and downward.
And was there any exit wound?
There was not.
And did you recover any projectiles from Mr. Herring's body?
Yes, so the bullet traveled through the abdomen. It struck the small intestine, the large intestine, the colon, and the left kidney. And it came to rest just beneath the skin of the left side of the back.
Now, what type
lot of
effect
organs.
would that have had on Mr. Herring's?
It resulted in a massive loss of blood.
Poor man.
All right, I'm showing you what has been previously marked as State's Exhibit 36. Can you identify that?
Yes, I can.
And what is it?
This is the bullet that I recovered from Mr. Herring's body at the time of autopsy.
And how are you able to tell that that is the bullet that you pulled from his body?
It, inside the evidence box is a label which bears the decedent's name and assigned case number and my initials, and then the exterior of the box is sealed with red evidence tape, also bearing my initial and the date of the examination.
Your Honor, the State would like to move State's Exhibit 36 to evidence.
No objection.
Admitted without objection. And now I'm going to publish State's Exhibit 35. And so is this what you retrieved from Mr. Herring's body? Is this the projectile that was retrieved from Mr. Herring's body?
That's correct.
Now, did you also conduct an internal examination of Mr. Herring's body?
Yes.
And were all of his organs present?
Yes.
And did you observe any evidence of any internal injury?
Internal injuries? Yes. Along the gunshot wound path, as I mentioned before, the bullet struck the stomach, both the large intestine, the small intestine, and the left kidney.
All right, can you explain to the jury what the cause of death is generally?
The cause of death is the exact injury or the natural disease process that causes a person's death.
And what was the cause of death in Mr. Herring's case?
Gunshot wound of the abdomen.
And what is the manner of death generally?
The manner of death takes into account the circumstances around the death to explain how the death occurred. And we have basically four choices: a natural death, accidental death, suicide, and homicide.
And what was the manner of death in Mr. Herring's case?
Homicide.
Hannah. Oh boy, here comes Tucker.
Morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
How you doing today?
I'm doing okay.
My name is Matt Tucker. I'm the attorney here for Ms. Payne. And I just wanted to go over a couple of details you brought out and that you made notes of. Now, you're familiar, you wrote a summary of this investigation or autopsy, correct?
I did.
Okay. And in this summary, you talked about what was notable from the body that you received, correct?
I did.
And one of the things was notable was a gunshot, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then you mentioned here that there was some slight bruising on the left shoulder.
There was, yes.
Do you recall where you put that in your autopsy summary?
It is in the evidence of acute injury section, right at the very end on page 3.
Okay, and where it says external examination?
Just above that, 2 lines above that, it says other injuries.
Mm-hmm.
A small contusion there.
So a contusion. So was it on his left side shoulder, correct?
It was, yeah, right overlying the collarbone.
Okay. Would that be where commonly a seatbelt would go across the body?
Yes.
Okay. And was that bruise kind of in a square or kind of in a size that would be consistent with possibly a seatbelt?
No, a seatbelt
Nice
tends to
try.
make a broader mark based on the size of the seatbelt. This was a much smaller bruise.
So it's much smaller than, say, the size of a seatbelt.
Absolutely, yes.
So, have a pin top or
Just probably a little larger than a pin top.
pin top? Okay. Now, I noticed you said that you collected some blood and then you sent it off for a drug test, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and who completed the drug test?
This would have been the GBI State Crime Lab.
Would it be Miss Cook?
The toxicologist. I don't have the toxicology report, so I'm not sure whose name is on it.
Okay. And you said that commonly they test for all the drugs that are addictive or that are commonly used in abuse?
Yes, in their comprehensive panel, they test for all the common drugs of abuse, as well as a few hundred additional drugs.
So if I may. And if I may approach, Your Honor.
Okay.
Let me show you here a summary of your autopsy. Does that appear to be a true and correct, accurate copy of what your summary, your autopsy summary was?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, Your Honor, I would like to tender what I used to defense exhibit number 10.
Any objection from the state?
10 was the autopsy. So,
All right, no objection, Your Honor.
Okay, admitted without objection.
and You stated the bullet had actually come in at a close range, or something close to a couple of inches and as far as possibly 2 feet, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you extracted the bullet, correct?
Yes.
But you examined the whole body, correct?
Yes.
So if I may approach, Your Honor. You can look at that and tell me, is that something that you extracted from his body?
It is.
Is that the bullet fragments from the one that went into his abdomen?
They are not.
Okay, where were those bullet fragments taken from?
These are bullet fragments that were actually taken from the right upper arm of Mr. Herring. These are old bullet fragments. He had sustained a gunshot wound in the past, and these were fragments that remained in the body.
And could you tell how old they had been in the body?
I cannot.
But those weren't the bullets that we were talking about that went into the abdomen, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you said that it came in at a up to downward, right to left angle, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And with
You may hold it.
so the way this is sitting right there, would that be a fair reflection that his body was standing like this?
I can't tell you his positioning.
But that's the angle of the bullet going into the body, correct?
This picture is a bit too zoomed in. I would need a little bit more reference in the picture.
Would that help?
Yes. So this picture is actually upside down as it's displayed.
Oh dear.
So this would be. Let me try to zoom that. All right. So this wouldn't be his belly button.
It is.
This be his chest.
Right. So the way it's displayed is actually upside down.
But if he was standing in the position I'm standing, would that be a fair and accurate
It
representation?
is still upside down, just for reference sake.
Okay, so
Oh
when
dear.
His head would be toward the top of the screen. Yes, so his head
Oh,
would be
my
toward the
goodness.
top of the screen now, and his belly button there. The dark structure in the top left-hand corner is his nipple areola complex. So where this gunshot wound is positioned is in the left side of the upper abdomen.
So it would be reflective of his body standing like this, correct?
Potentially, yes. But I cannot tell you what position he was in.
I'm talking the bullet hole as comparison to his body. His body being the chest up here, and that would be the position he would be in from that picture.
I cannot tell you what position the decedent was in. I can tell you that this gunshot wound entered the left side of the abdomen.
Okay, but that's his abdomen, and if it were to and just for reference purposes, if I may approach, Your Honor.
Yes, you
So this is a diagram of the body. And is that a fair, accurate representation of what a human body would look like?
may. Yes, in standard anatomical position, yes.
Okay, and you said that the bullet hole came from a top to bottom, right to left position, correct?
That's the direction through the body.
Okay.
He certainly could have sustained this injury while lying down and gotten that path through the body. He could have sustained this injury bending forward and sustained that same direction. So I cannot tell you what exact position he was in when he sustained the injury. I can only tell you the direction through the body.
And that's what I'm asking for, the direction through the body. You said it was a right to left, slightly sloped, and it went and hit some major organs, correct?
Yes.
Okay. If I may approach again, Your Honor. So could you draw how the bullet went through the body? Just so we can have an understanding.
About well, I can't connect these two lines because they're on opposite figures. You just want them both on the same, okay. It's a little, because I had already written entrance there, the entrance and exit are, it's hard to see where I've written the exit.
Is there a line you can draw as it was going through the body? Okay. Oh, and that was posted. So, is there a line that went through?
They are very close together, so,
Major organs that the I'll have to do.
yes.
We all need to hear you.
Okay. Is this a bare resemblance or representation of the human body?
Yes,
Is this markings that you put on this photograph that represent where the bullet came in and it's finally rested?
yes.
At this time, Your Honor, I moved to 10, 12.
Okay, exited without objection.
Ma'am.
Fact, published. Yes, you can.
Okay, so you stated that the bullet.
Upside down.
Stated that the bullet came in on his left side of his body,
Yes,
angled at a downward
yes.
right to left.
Very slightly right to left.
So if there was a gun that shot, it would have had to been inside or close to his body. It couldn't have been from shooting it. If he was here, it couldn't have been shot this way, correct?
When you say he was here, you have to go.
If he was sitting in a car,
Okay. In the driver's
the
seat.
driver's seat is the
Okay.
steering wheel's here. The bullet could not have come from this angle.
With him sitting as normally seated in a driver's seat.
Okay. Thank you. So normally sitting in the driver's seat, it could not have come from the window into the vehicle to hit him in that kind of position normally seated, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and actually the angle going down and slightly right to left, it would appear that the gun was past that area and kind of angled back, correct?
Again, I have no opinion on the positioning of the gun because I have no information on the positioning of the decedent.
But from your expert opinion, looking at all of the angles and the way the bullet entered the body?
I have no information on the position of the decedent. That would change my opinion depending on the positioning of the decedent. So without that information, I cannot render an opinion.
But you're an expert, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. She did
Wow.
not answer the question.
Did she answer?
She said she cannot give any opinion on the angle of the gun.
I just asked her if she.
Attorney Tucker, finish what you're saying, ADA Hunter.
Dr. Desamours already explained that she cannot give any opinion on the angle of the gun because she does not have the information that she needs.
I didn't ask that question. I asked her if she was an expert.
Come on, she already said that.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
Mm-mm.
Can I ask her if she's an expert?
Attorney Tucker,
I'm sorry.
please, I haven't finished saying what I am saying.
Don't be so
please
rude.
allow me. I'm going to sustain the objection. She was qualified as an expert previously, and so you do have that information. And the question has been asked several times and answered. So I'm going to instruct you to move on with your next question.
So she said, and just to clarify, she said that she was not given any details of the position of the gun. But she being an expert, I want to ask a question and ask about a scenario, what her findings would be.
Mm-mm.
Oh, you're going to give her a scenario?
Yes, ma'am.
I will give you some leeway.
Thank you. So,
Oh,
presuming
Lord.
in this scenario, the body is sitting in a driver's seat, normally positioned with the steering wheel in front of it. And noticing the trajectory of this bullet, from your expert opinion, would the gun have to be positioned a little farther in, over where the bullet entered the body? In your expert opinion?
You sound like an idiot.
It could still be positioned over the body. It could still be positioned slightly left of the body. We're talking about a gunshot wound that goes essentially straight back through his body. The right to left deviation is very slight. We're talking about a 1/4 inch. So the entrance defect is 1 1/4 inch left of the midline of his abdomen, and where the bullet lodged on the back is 1 1/2 inch. So we're literally talking about the width of about a standard pencil eraser. So there's not a significant deviation there. So the gun could be either over the wound, could be to the side of the wound. If the decedent's turned any little bit in his seat, it could still be on the left side. There are just too many variables for me to give an accurate opinion on the positioning of the gun.
Yes, doctor, but in my scenario, I said to take the position of the body as being straight.
Even taking the position being straight, it can be to the left. It can, the muzzle of the gun is long. People's arms are long. You can still have that same path through the body.
And I appreciate you saying that. But there was, as you said, a very slight right to left.
That's correct.
And based on the size of the entrance, how close was the gun to it? You said could have been 1 inch to 2 feet.
No, I said a few inches up to 2 to 3 feet, depending on the weapon used, the ammunition used. To find the exact range of fire requires, test firing the exact same weapon with the exact same ammunition in very controlled conditions. So we cannot give an exact range of fire, but the presence of stipple abrasions lets us know it is a few inches up to roughly 2 to 3 feet from the body.
And because of those parts that you mentioned that were on the body that burns close to the bullet entrance, it would appear that gunpowder had hit the chest area, correct?
Around not the chest, the abdomen, around the gunshot wound.
Okay, and gunpowder generally comes out the barrel of the gun
Yes.
And from that, you still can only get a range a few inches to a couple of feet, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now you were told that he had diabetes, and you were told he had some other symptoms, correct?
I was told he has a medical history of hypertension and diabetes.
Did you ever see any medical records?
In this case, no.
Okay. So you took what was told to you and did your evaluation with that kind of in the back of your mind as you're going through it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But you didn't find any signs that would show that there was any kind of diabetic coma shock or anything, because as you explained, the body would have burned the sugar in the body at the rigor mortis or...
Right. There was no evidence of hyperglycemia, which we can see at autopsy, so we know that his blood sugar wasn't high, but there's no way for me to determine whether his blood sugar is low.
So this was kind of inconclusive to you. It wasn't a relative factor when you were looking into the body and doing your autopsy.
Yes, the cause of death in this case is a gunshot wound of the abdomen.
And were you given information about how long it took for him to get to the hospital, or how long he was at the hospital?
I was told that he arrived at the ER at Southern Regional Medical Center at 6:38 p.m. and he was pronounced deceased at 6:46 p.m.
And were you given the time of the incident?
Approximately, or our investigator was initially told that the accident occurred at 6:15 p.m.
So roughly 15 minutes to get to the hospital. From what you were told.
Yes, that was the initial information given to the investigators, and sometimes, details can be off in the initial investigation, but that was what we were told initially.
From your autopsy, did you find it was off? That time would have been off based on...
No, we are not determining time of death.
Okay. Now, the drug screen, if I may approach, Your Honor. If I may approach, Your Honor. What I have here is exhibit number 13 that I was asked to use to refresh your memory.
I think you need to be
And
refreshed.
what exact drug was he tested for?
Well, what I'm reviewing is what appears to be a toxicology report from the GBI, and he had a comprehensive drug screen.
Yeah, but there are a few listed out specific drugs they test for, correct?
Yes, some are specifically listed. The common drugs of abuse are listed out, but the drug confirmation results specifically list a negative comprehensive drug screen.
And could you read off those drugs that they were tested for and kind of give an example of what on the street those would be called?
Barbiturates, which would be drugs like phenobarbital, cannabinoids or marijuana, certain benzodiazepines, which class of sedative type drugs like Xanax, cocaine and cocaine metabolites, and certain opioids like oxycodone, hydrocodone, fentanyl, that sort of thing.
Those are the only drugs that were tested for?
No, he had a comprehensive drug screen.
Get him set and straight, doctor.
Just chose to list these specifically out.
And that's what I was going to ask, ma'am. So those
Yeah. All right. Sure.
were specifically put out there to show those were tested for and those were negative, even though it was a comprehensive. Those were singled out, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and on the street, there's other common addictive drugs besides those you mentioned, correct?
Yes.
Okay, what might those be?
You could have drugs like LSD, PCP, those type of drugs.
Would meth be one of those drugs?
Methamphetamine, yes, could be.
But methamphetamine was not specifically pulled out to identify
No.
as in that report.
No, but I happen to know from working at the GBI for 10 and a half years that methamphetamine is included in the comprehensive drug screen.
But it was not singled out in this.
Oh my gosh.
It was not, yes.
He's tiresome.
And other than a slight pin top bruise to the left shoulder, there were no other bruises that you noticed on the body, correct?
That's correct.
Not any in the face.
No,
Not any in the chest.
no,
Not any in the arm.
no,
No other bruises or kind of marks or cuts.
no.
And that would be reflected that obviously there'd been no injuries or any kind of force, blunt force to that area, correct?
No, that's not correct.
But
You can still suffer blunt impact injury and it not leave a bruise.
Yeah, there you go. Because we know what he's going for, because the stories are varied, whether she was inside the window, outside the window. Was she punching his arm? Was she punching in his chest? I think somebody says even she was punching the car. But regardless, you could still be punched and it not show up. But we know what attorney Smarmy is getting at. I'm glad she's calling him out. And he need not try to, he's not going to trip her up, because the woman knows her work and he doesn't. So there's that.
But on this body that you did the autopsy,
Oh my
you saw
God.
no bruises, you saw no signs of any kind of bruising in the face and the
Nobody even
chest
said he was in the
area,
face.
That's correct.
God, he needs to just pipe down. Sorry, guys. I do too. He really harps on things.
You're right, I'm not finished. So,
Oh dear, now what? He's insatiable.
one more
Sure.
question, sorry. Now,
Now,
given the scenario I gave to you, with his body being sitting straight forward, with the steering wheel being in front of him,
oh boy.
the entrance of the bullet could not have come from a gun outside of the window, correct?
Gosh.
No, not likely.
I'm sorry, guys.
No further questions.
Can you redirect on the state? No, okay. You're excused, Doctor. Thank you. The state may call its next witness.
Okay. I think I'm going to shut down this popsicle stand for now. I'm not sure. I think I probably already have a lot of time in here, so I don't want it to be too long, and it might already be a bit long, but hopefully it's interesting enough. It's going to definitely get more interesting, because the next person I know is going to be another eyewitness and some other people, and eventually, most of you probably already know, but if you don't, Miss Hannah Payne, Miss High Horse Hannah Payne does testify, because basically they got nothing else. So, as always, I appreciate you all so much for liking, subscribing, commenting. I apologize if you've made it to the very end and am hearing me now, that even makes you more special. And you still are, even if you didn't. But I just want to apologize that I'm not really professional, and sometimes the lighting isn't great, and I have allergies, and I'm clearing my throat, trying to suppress coughs, and I know that can be a real pain, and I'm trying not to do it, but sometimes I gotta just go, I gotta merge forward. So thank you all so much for understanding. You all are, with the exception of, maybe 1% says something, but you can't please everybody. If you try to please everybody, you please no one. So I'm happy for those of you all who have been so kind to me. So we will continue with this, and don't forget to be kind to others, be kind to you. I love you, and I'll see you the next time.